Welcome back, everybody, to this episode of the Open Concept Podcast, where we are breaking down unnecessary walls and barriers that stand in the way of greatness. My man with me here today, Blake Chancey. What's up, brother?
What's going on, brother?
You know, it's fun to have you sit down here in this office because you facilitated the fact that this office space even existed.
Well, I had the fortunate opportunity of you telling me you're interested in a commercial space. You told me what it was. You told me what you wanted. We got to work on the paperwork and had this thing wrapped up pretty quick.
Yeah, it was pretty quick. I'm just gonna shut these blinds here real quick. Just give me a sec.
Sounds good. Just transformed the space in here, though. Looking dialed in. I love it.
Yeah, it turned out pretty good, didn't it?
Yeah, it's nice earthy tones and some dark windows and everything. It's a beautiful space.
So real estate is a hot topic, I think, any day, any time all over the world. Huge industry. I've seen recently a lot of houses in our neighborhood where we live in a very small neighborhood down in Tawasin here, and it's very rare that houses pop up for sale, but all of a sudden I've seen a huge amount of inventory pop up. I've been sending my in-laws places to look, and all of a sudden there seems to be a lot of houses on the market. Why is that? What's going on right now?
Well, the strangest part about that is that a lot of these people are staying within the community. They're literally selling their house and moving into a smaller home or a bigger home.
Just shuffling around.
Literally shuffling around in the Bay right now is happening everywhere. Neighbor of mine moved 400 meters down the street, and I just recently sold my house and moved 600 meters down the street. So we're literally calling it the Great Shuffle in Boundary Bay. That's definitely a big reason of the spike in inventory, but it's because another property's come up on the market that they've fallen in love with. So like, oh, okay, I've always wanted that house. Yeah. I better list mine. Let's make things happen.
Yeah, well, congratulations on the new purchase, by the way.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Yeah, everybody has neighborhoods that they love living in, I think, or that they would love to try out living in. I'm one of those people. I love where I live. I love my neighborhood. I don't know where else in the Lower Mainland I would personally choose to live, but I see what you're saying about that, like the shuffle around, because there's a few houses down there that I have my eyes on that would be like, it would be fun to live in that spot.
Yeah, absolutely. For a little while.
How long have you been doing real estate for, man? This is because your parents were into it. Is this something that you were born into?
It's in my blood.
It's in your blood.
My grandma was a realtor, so I'm a third generation South Delta realtor. Yeah, so it's literally in my blood. That's what I tell everybody. Always loved marketing. Always loved homes. Loved construction, interior design, all of that. So there was no other path that I really wanted to go on other than, maybe play baseball professionally or something like that. Yeah. But, that's a little difficult. So got into real estate, and it's been 14 years already, and time has absolutely flown by here.
Is it? There's like as many ball players as there are realtors, aren't there? I don't know. Is there way more realtors than there are ball players?
There's way more realtors than ball players. Dude, there's 15,000 realtors in the Greater Vancouver Real Estate Board. In the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board, I think there's about 7,000 realtors. So that's like 22,000 realtors just in the Lower Mainland here.
Is that because people think that being a realtor is an easy way to make a living?
Absolutely. Most people think that real estate is you get your license and you start to print money. And that's realistically
that's what I think. That's what I think.
Right?
You just become a realtor and you just start printing cash.
Yeah.
Now there's a lot of memes out there and stuff. But I think like with that many people, 15,000 realtors,
Greater Vancouver.
It's tough to really separate yourself in a market. Like arguably there's a lot of inventory, so maybe there's a lot going around, but it's got to be tough getting out there, like to really start making a name for yourself, because I see signs all over the place. I'm so and so on the bench signs, and I've been servicing the neighborhood for 20 years. I'm like, I've lived here my entire life. I don't know who that person is. I've never heard of you. So, you know, and even we have in the studio here where we are, we have our sign company logos on the busiest street in the city. And people drive by and they call us and they talk to us. And I tell them where our office is. And they say, oh, I drive by there 3 or 4 times a day. I never even knew that you were there. I'm like, well, why not? Our sign is right there, but people get tunnel vision, or they just they stay in their lane. And one thing that I've realized, you know, we started our company here about been in business. We're in our 16th year right now, and I thought growing up and coming back to this area, I knew a lot of people, but there's so many new people that are here and moving here all the time, and to any given market, that you have to stay on top of connecting with people, marketing, getting your name out there all the time.
Never stops.
It never stops. We were talking about this offline a little bit before we started recording. Yeah. So what's the most difficult thing, do you think, for realtors to really start developing a career in real estate, if somebody was to get started? Because to me and to a lot of people, it sounds kind of easy. And I know that it's not, because there's a huge amount that goes into it. But why? What do you think stops people from becoming really successful realtors? And
it takes a lot more than people think. Everybody, you know, gets their license and thinks that, you know, their friends, their family, somebody they've met once is going to give them the call to trust them with their largest financial decision of their life. And that's just not the case. You need to be relentless in this business. You need to have great relationships and consistently go and try to find new business every single day. And if you don't do that, I don't think the longevity for the average realtor is that great. Like, basically, you get your real estate license, you pass the exam through UBC, and you'll go and do like a post licensing course for a week or so. It's changed a little bit since, you know, I went to today.
Sure.
But I remember my instructor saying, there's 34 people of you in the room. In 2 years from now, there's going to be 4. In 5 years, there's going to be 2. Look around, try to predict who that's going to be. So the amount of people that actually stick it out in this business and build a sustainable business is very, very low. And you know, it's all about trust. You have to build trust with people, because it is a huge decision to move on its own, and then to trust somebody with most likely your largest asset or largest financial decision. You need to make sure that that person's in your corner and going to be available to work for you when you need them to. So there's definitely a little bit of giving up some of your life when your clients need you the most. And I would want my realtor to do that for me too. You know, if it's Friday night at 7 p.m. and we're in contract negotiations, I need my realtor there for me.
If I want to bury a dead body, like the guy that I want to call is my realtor. Like that's what I'm picturing. Like if something goes down on a Friday night and I need to make something disappear, I'm like, who do I know that's like, who's up at this hour that's like willing to kind of drop everything and make
my realtor will answer the call.
I'm going to call my realtor. He's going to answer the phone. First, he's going to think that's because there's a deal happening, but I know that he's going to end up answering the phone.
Yeah. You say the word land and I'm there.
That's it. There's a big hole in this piece of land.
Yeah.
Need that dealt with. Amazing, man. And you have been killing it at the gym lately too. Actually been I've mentioned to you, it was you were looking, I was like, man, at some point I'll have biceps like you too. I'll have biceps.
Yeah.
You were quite into you have your personal training certification.
Yeah,
as well.
That's right. Back when I was like 19 or so, I got my personal training course and certificate all done there.
Is that like, did you think that that was where you were going to go at some point before you got into real estate, or was it kind of just something that you wanted to
learn?
Yeah.
Just loved working out in the gym since I was probably 16 or 17. You know, I was always the shortest guy and not the fastest guy on a lot of my sports teams back in the day. So I did this fitness program called Air Alert. and it helped me get faster, jump higher, and it improved my performance in every single sport I played. So after that, I was like, okay, let's get into the gym. Let's start doing some resistance training. And when you're young, you can go to the gym and work out for 2 hours, and not even feel sore the next day. Things are a little different. As
You're telling me you're busy. You're busy moving, and now all of a sudden, like your hip is sore, and that does. There's a part of that that certainly just comes with age. Like I'll go out running, I'll go out lifting, I'll go do whatever. But man, I spend an hour and a half on the trampoline with my daughter, and I like the next day my back is like, oh man, what did I?
You had a car wreck? What happened?
Yeah. It's not quite that bad, but I definitely feel that.
So yeah, fitness has just always been a passion of mine. I just wanted to go and experience and learn from somebody that was in the industry for 30 years, and I think that relates into real estate for myself. I joined my parents to start off. They didn't give me any business. I had to go out and door knock and make connections and reach out to my sphere and get business that way. But I was underneath people with an absolute wealth of knowledge that have been literally selling real estate now for 35, 36 years. So to have them in my back corner when I had a question that's something you can't just look in a book for the answer to and problem solve, they were there through and through. And so working with them, working underneath somebody, learning from somebody that's already done what you want to do, I think is a huge cheat code to life. It's just like a coach in anything that you want to do.
Yeah. I know I've had a number of mentors in my life, and I've had a number of coaches in my life. Mm-hmm. And the difference is you typically pay a coach, whereas a mentor is willing to do it for free. And a mentor, if you can find a great mentor that is willing to take you under their wing, teach you a few things, that's what I tell all of our staff, anybody. I work with a lot of high school kids, just doing through an entrepreneurship program that I've been volunteering with for the last 6 or 7 years. And I always tell them they need to find a mentor, if that's somebody that has done it, somebody that they can spend time with, somebody that they can learn from, because it's always better to learn from somebody else's mistakes if you can. And
absolutely,
the best people to learn from as you're going up the mountain is to talk with people that are coming back down. And if you can line yourself with good mentors and good coaches, I personally attribute a lot of my mindset and any ounce of success to having good people in my life and finding great people to help along.
It's everything. Like, find out what you're passionate about, what you're truly interested in doing, and find somebody that's older and experienced and it's already done it, and try to learn from them, whether it's through coaching programs or just following them on social media and trying to get their vibe and seeing how they look at everything from, I've been there, done that standpoint, and they're going to share their mistakes with you and along their stories and things like that. So it's invaluable to find somebody that's in the space that you want to be in and just, learn from them, try to soak up as much information as possible.
I think a lot of people don't find their passion, or they have troubles finding their passion. And even if they do find it, they never find a way or see a path in which they can monetize that and have that become a job or a career. And so you may have a different opinion on it. I think it's very difficult for a lot of people to separate themselves maybe from what they're doing right now to something that they're passionate in and making a huge career change. Because as you get older, maybe you don't have a passion. Maybe you find a passion along the way. You get older, you have family, you have responsibilities, you have more, it just becomes more and more difficult to make that shift. So anytime I talk to somebody that has made a huge transition in their life and taken a huge risk to do something that they love, is nothing but mad respect for that, because I know they are in a lot of ways starting over on first base again.
Yeah. If you have a family, a mortgage, bills to pay, mouths to feed, it's a big deal trying to leave something and start fresh. One quote that I do like, though, is for those that, aren't loving their career, their job, whatever they consider it, is your 9 to 5 isn't killing you, your 5 to 9 is. So when you're done work, how are you spending those next 4 hours? Are you stuck in traffic listening to music, or maybe you could be listening to a podcast or an audiobook? Are you, making a healthy dinner, or are you just throwing on Netflix and, feeding your brain garbage and your body garbage?
I love that. And I 100% agree with it, because I know what went into making the transition from working for the company that I was working for previously to starting this company, and in what that transition looked like. I've told that story before, but you made a comment about Netflix, and I just want to say it has been a long time. I have a 4-year-old daughter, so anytime I have one TV in the house. Yeah. Anytime the TV goes on, it is all for her.
Yeah, of course.
But I had as soon as it goes on, she's just immediately, I want to watch this. She thinks it's her television, which is fine for now, but the other day, my wife was sleeping. She was lying down. We're expecting another daughter at the time we're recording this in like a week from now. And so my wife was taking a nap. It was like 3:00 in the afternoon on the weekend. She was lying down, and my daughter fell asleep on the couch, and she was napping. And it was so quiet in the house. I was like, I couldn't really do anything. I was like, what? I'm gonna see what's on Netflix right now. Yeah. I haven't watched television in really like a couple of years before I like sunk into a TV show.
Yeah.
And I put one show on, and I was like, man, there's some good stuff out there, but I forgot how addicting it was.
Absolutely.
So I was one episode in, and then my daughter, she was kind of waking up, and I was like, shh, just go back to sleep. I just need to want to know what's going on here. But you start getting into that cycle of just stuff that doesn't matter, and then you start questioning, like, why am I watching this stuff? How is this allowing me to move forward? And it takes some discipline to really stay focused on the activities that are going to move yourself forward in any sort of productive way.
Yeah. Growing's hard, and there's going to be a lot of resistance when you're changing your routine, right? We're all creatures of habit. We all just eventually kind of do what we're used to doing on a day-to-day basis. I was listening to another podcast with, Joe Rogan had somebody on, it might've been Chris Williamson lately. And they're like, why do you do these things? It's like, well, this is just what I do. Day in and day out. This is my routine. This is my habit. There's no thought process anymore. It's just the structure that they've built, and it's just autopilot at that point. And so if you're picking a whole bunch of great things to do for yourself to expand your mind, your health, your body, then you're going to keep compounding, and the snowball effect's going to happen. You're going to get healthier, wealthier, whatever that means to you. And if you're choosing the other route, things are probably going to go downhill.
Yeah. I mean, your habits can and will really start to define you, because your habits, they're either gonna sharpen the blade, or they're gonna dull the blade, depending on what your habits are. And so you can choose those habits, but if you have bad habits or things that aren't sharpening your sword, it requires a huge amount of discipline in order to obtain those new habits and have them become actual habits versus just things that are very difficult to do. Like if you want to exercise, if you're not trying to exercise, you're trying to eat healthy, or watch less Netflix, and you're not eating healthy, and you're not exercising, and you're just watching a lot of TV, in order to make that transition, for that to become a lifestyle, it just takes a huge amount of grit and discipline, and then it just becomes second nature. Like, you just, no questions asked. You just go out and you exercise. If you haven't exercised that day, it feels weird. If you start eating food that tastes really good but makes you feel like crap, it will just make you feel worse and worse. But it takes a huge amount of discipline until it doesn't.
And it's not motivation. Everybody always says, I usually story on Instagram and Facebook every day at the gym. And I kind of do that just accountability for myself. It's not really for anybody else, but I've had a few people reach out to me and be like, this is super inspiring. Like, thank you. This got me to the gym today. And like, I never expected that, but it's one of the coolest feelings ever.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, there's always going to be resistance in your life when you're making change. And if you really want to do something, you just got to go for it. I don't quite remember where I was going to roll with that.
You were saying you were taking photos of the gym. You were posting on stories, and it wasn't motivation.
It's not motivation. It's discipline. Like, I've always looked up to you for that. You have a very intense business being a general contractor. You're super dialed in with your schedule. I see you out for a morning run. I see you at the gym, and I know how hard you have to work for the rest of the day too. Yet you still make the decision to go to the gym. And it's not motivation, because I'm sure you're like, I could use an extra hour of sleep for sure right now. But instead, you make the decision through discipline to show up for yourself by going to the gym and starting your day off that way.
Appreciate that very much. But you're right. I mean, nobody necessarily like wants to get up, and if you're sore, I mean, this morning I had a meeting, a 6:30 meeting. We're doing a training session for a new group we're getting off the ground, and we're meeting at 6:30 in the morning. And I had the option. I was like, well, I can do the meeting from 6:30, which is going to go until 8, and then I can go to the gym at 8 o'clock afterwards. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I know I need to be in the office because I got stuff that I need to get done. So I have an option. I'm like, well, I can either just skip my workout today, or I can get my ass out of bed at 4 a.m. and get outside and go for a run, whether it's windy, rainy, whatever. And that's what I did. Got up, got out there, still got it done, and made it back in time and showered up and was ready to rock and roll for my meeting at 6:30.
But you've gained the experience and the knowledge through your discipline, where it's like, maybe the one day you slipped and decided to just, no, I'll push the gym. We'll let the day happen. And then later on, you're like, I wasn't at my best today. Like, so your knowledge and history of that and your discipline makes you, or it helps you make the right decision, right? Like, I know if I go to the gym first thing in the morning after I walk the dogs, hang out with my partner, if I make it to the gym, I'm going to be better for every other single person that I interact with that day.
100%, because it's your responsibility to bring whatever energy you need, or whatever energy your family needs or your clients need. It is your responsibility to bring that energy. Mm-hmm. And if you're walking, to me, I can control what I can control. I can control, for the most part, when I exercise, what kind of food I put in my mouth, and that I can control the energy and the intention that I show up with. And if I'm out of sync, if I'm not exercising regularly, if I'm not eating the nutrients that I know that my body needs, then I feel like I'm doing a disservice to everybody in my life, because I can't show up for them at 110%. I can't show up for them the way that I feel like I should. And I never want to do that. I don't want to show up for a meeting and meet clients and not bring them the best version of myself. Because other than that, or to a staff meeting, right? If we have a team meeting, it is my responsibility to show up and bring that energy. And if they don't bring the energy themselves, then I'll call them out on it.
Yeah, and that's on them.
That's on them. But it's funny, when started eating healthier food and started bringing my lunch to the office, and that your staff and people around you start seeing that these are the things that matter to you and things that you value. Conversations about, going out and drinking on the weekends, those start to die down. Mm-hmm. The amount of fast food that comes through the office door just drops off, because you start attracting that level of standard.
For sure. And you're a leader within your company, right? So you're setting a standard for yourself, and people see that you're successful in many different parts of your life. So it's just like the mentor thing. Like, you're waking up early, going to the gym, eating healthy. If other people that are just starting a role in your company see you doing that and see where you're at, they're like, oh, maybe I should hop on that train too, right?
There's so many levels to it. And like, the more that you learn, the more you realize you don't know. And for sure, the more that you start exploring, like, there is levels to this stuff. And I was out running. I was listening to Cameron Haynes' his new book.
Nice.
I crushed that book while I was running. And actually, funny story. So I wrote. So he put a post out about his book, and I wrote him back on his Instagram post. And I thought this was so cool that, because I'm a big fan of just his and his sons and a lot of the stuff that they do.
He's a legend.
Their discipline.
Yeah.
But he had, I had made a comment on his Instagram, and I got a notification, and it says, "Oh, Cameron Haynes liked your comment on his Instagram page," and I thought that was pretty cool because it still took some time. I'm assuming it's him in my mind. I'll say it's him, but took some time out of his days, busy as he is, to go through and take a look at the comments on his Instagram page and engage with people in his community. And I thought that was super cool.
It is. And that's him. That is 100% him. He doesn't have anybody manages the stuff. He's talked about that.
Yeah.
And yet, like, it's back to the thing when a couple people reach out to me being like, "Hey, like, thanks for the inspiration. You got me to the gym today. Like, that makes me feel great." And he probably saw your comment and that makes his day too. It's like, there's so much hate for social media and what it is, but I have found so much positivity and being able to connect with different people around the world and, like, you know, vibe with your tribe, attract the people that are similar to you and, you know, gain a relationship with them and go back and forth with them. I think anything is what you make out of it, right? So social media for me is a beautiful thing. I've got incredible relationships with people in Canada, in the States, and that's all through there. And that's all just because of similarities that we found online, whether it's fitness, real estate, architecture, design, anything like that. So yeah, that's so cool. Like
there's the word social media, there's a big aspect of it that people leave out, which is a social part.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have if you're in different groups, if you're in, I mean, it's not just about posting for the sake of posting. You need to be talking to people, right? How else are you going to build a connection? And we live in such a digital world right now that not as many people are getting out and going and having coffee and sitting down, because people start thinking, oh, that's kind of a waste of time. Like, why would I go and sit down and have coffee when I can just shoot them a message on Instagram?
Yeah.
But if you want to get value out of social media, be social.
You gotta put in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Like you said, you get out of any situation, whatever you put into it.
Yeah.
And I found that social media, and I mean, people will say social media is great. People will say social media is terrible. I think it can be both depending on how you use it. Mm-hmm. And I think it's difficult for a lot of people because people, when they're posting, they don't like the judgment of other people. And that's a very difficult thing to get past. Mm-hmm. Because if you're trying to figure out, if you're like I'm not going to say like a teenager on Instagram, but if you're in your teenage phase of social media, so you're in this like awkward growth phase, and I found myself very much there. I still remember when we got our first home computer, and it was, one computer, it was like Microsoft DOS.
Yeah.
You put that in, dating myself a bit.
Disk and
but trying to figure this out, and then you see these kids coming up with social media, it just becomes first nature to them. They're basically born and they have 100,000 followers on TikTok by the time they're 4 years old.
Yeah.
But for people that are getting onto social media and trying to get past the barrier of judgment, it's a really difficult thing to do. Yeah. And so if you're in that awkward stage of like, I don't like the lighting, I don't like the posting, I don't know what to post, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Back to the discipline is like, you have to put in reps, and you'll get feedback. But I think you will learn more about yourself more and more by posting on social media. You'll have that really fast feedback loop. Mm-hmm. Faster than anywhere else on the planet, because you will post a picture or you will post a video and you'll think, I don't like the way that I look. I don't like the way that I sound. I don't like the tone of my voice. I don't like the speed that I talk at. And then you'll start making these iterations, I feel, towards becoming the person that you've always wanted to become.
Yeah.
And I think social media is a great tool for that if used
Yeah.
properly.
So sounds like you consider it as a bit of a accelerator.
I look at it as a tool, like anything else. And even if you don't like, posting on social media for whatever reason, because everybody has their own, I don't want people to see my family. I don't want to post this. It's like, okay, well, don't post shit about your family. It's necessary for business. I'm not going to say for all businesses, and maybe I won't go as far as to say that it's necessary, but for the vast majority of people, it is necessary. In the vast majority, or for the vast majority of business owners and entrepreneurs, it is a requirement. And so you need that discipline and you need that framework to just say, no matter what, I'm going to get content out today.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's going to struggle. You're going to struggle with it. And sometimes you're going to feel inspired to say something, and you're just going to have to get it out regardless, because that's what you got to do. And if you say something that kind of sucks, you're like, man, well, I'm just going to do better next time.
Yeah. Just learn from it. Just grow. Next time. So many times done is better than perfect. Like most of the time. And like, I could sit on my computer and tweak a different angle to a photo or a post or adjust this and the next thing. And like, there's been a lot of times where I'm like, no, this just needs to go up.
Yeah, my wife and I are very different that way. She's very much a perfectionist. I mean, she's a photographer, videographer. She doesn't like photographing me or doing any video for me.
Yeah.
Just because. But what she's really good at is becoming very, very detailed. She's very, very talented at what she does. And to the point where I'm like, nobody's going to notice that. And she's like, I will notice that.
Yeah.
Like, okay. I get that. You do that. You do that. But for me, I'm just like, just got to get it out.
Yeah.
Just got to get it out. And that's where, those two different parts of the brain and two different personalities, maybe conflict a bit, but I think that they're also very complementary.
Yeah. And that's great though. And you can also have two different versions of your social media, right? Stories are great for just sharing a little clip every day. And that's what really kept me accountable when I was starting my like social media journey when I was first going into real estate, because back in 2012, not many realtors were on social media. So I was like, okay, this is a great opportunity for me to show other people that I'm working every day and being able to share new listings, or not even my listings necessarily, but other realtors' listings if I'm on a tour, and just showcase like what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, show that I'm working consistently. And if people need to reach out to me, I'll be there to work for them too. And then the more curated stuff can go on your timeline, on your feed. You can post more, detail oriented things and really look at your copyright if you want. But I think the more raw and real that we can be on social media these days is even getting more engagement.
Well, I think that's because there's so much out there that people don't know what they can trust. I mean, if you're scrolling through social media, there is a huge amount of ads that are coming at you, especially with AI being just overly saturating everybody's feed. Nobody knows what's real these days. Nobody knows what program they're going to, what's clickbait, what's an actual program that's going to be beneficial to them, what course they're going to be taking. Is this even a real person, or is this just just an AI that's talking to me? There's so much noise out there that it's getting trust, or trusting a person, or trusting an account, or trusting a company on social media is becoming more and more difficult. And people are getting, I think anyways, less and less engaged. And it's more difficult. And that's why I think personal brands are so strong. And I think that's why personal brands are so important, is because people are much more likely to do deals with people that they trust versus a sign on the wall or a company logo, because there's so many out there now that they don't know who to trust, and they don't know that they can trust the brand until they know the person behind the brand.
Yep. That's what we were talking about before this too, right? It's all about building trust with people. That's the only way that you're going to have a long-term successful business, especially in small communities, right? You have to be there for your clients when they need you, and you need to be real with them. Like, you have to give honest advice all of the time and just gain that rapport with them as much as you can in as many different ways as you can. And what I love about social media for any business, really, if you're posting enough about yourself on camera, you could have the opportunity for somebody to call you into their home, like a realtor, for example. I've had people call me into their home. We walk around a property. They give me the tour, I write down my notes, and they say, Blake, we've been following you on social media for a decade. We're ready to work with you now. We already knew who was coming into the door when I was there, and I've never spoken to them before the listing appointment call, anything like that. And like, that literally gives me goosebumps because it's such a special thing that they could feel confident and willing, ready, and trustworthy of me before actually even meeting in person. So it's a cool, really cool thing.
Yeah. It's a very cool thing, and it's a huge responsibility too, because if you're going to be putting yourself out there, it's almost a framework, or it's keeping you accountable to being that person that you want to be.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have that framework, right, you can say, oh, I want to be the healthiest person and I want to lose a bunch of weight. And you can say that to yourself, but a lot of times it's easy to slip back in if nobody's watching.
Yeah.
It's more difficult to do that if you eliminate that noise and you have accountability partners, and those accountability partners can be your social media following. They can be, somebody that's coming to meet you at the gym. In my case, I really, I wanted to start shooting some more content, and I was like, I kept putting it off and saying I will, I'll do this later, and I was just going to do it, do a lot of it myself.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? I keep postponing that. Keep postponing the work that needs to be done, because I'm finding little kind of bullshit things that need to happen. Check the inbox, rearrange the calendar, just do stuff that didn't really make sense. But when I said, hey, Mr. Videographer, why don't we just schedule the same time every week? You're going to show up. I'm going to pay you, and we're going to shoot content for a few hours. And I want you to come to me. Here's like the general strategy. You format it. Just show up. Tell me what we're going to be doing, and I will be prepared to shoot content. That gets done because there's a framework in place that holds somebody else accountable to it. You're messing with somebody else's calendar. You're bringing them into your world, so you're going to show up. Otherwise, things just get postponed. And for me, I need to have, I need to put frameworks in place. Otherwise, it's easy to get distracted. It's easy to jump and, just aimlessly scroll through social media and, not get anything done. So
I need just the business tasks. Like, there's a million things on our to-do list at all times as like a decently successful business person, right? There's always things, even if it's slow, there's always so much that we could be doing to be better with our branding, marketing, something. There's always a long laundry list of items to tackle off. But if we have it in our calendar, and if there's somebody else involved in the calendar that we have to show up for, it's more than likely going to get done. Like, for me, one of my least favorite things is canceling any appointment for any reason at any time.
Yeah, 100%. And to go in and cancel on somebody else that's dedicated their time and they're counting on it is a very difficult thing for me to do. There's got to be something very high priority that has to happen in order for me to cancel on it. So that becomes that framework. You have the people around you that are going to keep you accountable for the things that need to be done, and that's the one thing that I have certainly found helpful in my journey.
Yeah.
Let's talk about housing for a moment.
Sure.
So many people these days are growing up. I mean, whether it's teenagers that are saying, you know what, I'm writing off home ownership for good, or it's I say kids, but they're in their mid-20s, or even getting to the point where they're having families and they've just sort of really written off the idea of ever owning a home because of housing costs being that as high as they are, or them not being able to make enough money or even being able to ever see a possibility of making some sort of down payment, is all hope lost for the majority of people that want to become homeowners?
No, all hope is definitely not lost. I think it's just figuring out your priorities. I've always been a saver. I always knew that home ownership was a huge goal of mine since I was honestly very, very young. And so I started saving money when I was like 14 years old after my first job. Just like a little bit went away. RSPs, like at a very young age. So yeah, it comes back to priorities. I know people that live their 20s and they travel the world. I know a friend of mine has been to Europe 12 times. Does he own a property? No, but he rents a fantastic condo and his work is mobile. So if he wants to take off, leave Canada for the year, go travel and work somewhere else, then he has that flexibility. Whereas me, I like the stability of owning a property, living in it. I work out of my home a lot of the time. And, you know, it's in real estate, it's nice to have a nice home. So no, all hope is not lost. I think that people, if you want to get into home ownership at a young age, you're going to have to make some sacrifices. You're going to have to budget. And I think that's where schools could probably come up with a better curriculum to teach us about savings, about taxes, about what it would actually look like to, you know, maybe buy your first condo by age 25 if you save X amount of dollars per month over the next 10 years. So I think it's about finding the people out there that you can learn from. And right now it's easier than ever to find people to help you along your journey for whatever you want to do in life, including homeownership.
Yeah, I think there's a ton of content out there now too, right? If you're following guys like Dave Ramsey or a lot of people that will provide really good financial information and playbooks for those that want to go down that path. I think it is a mindset though, and I think that, I mean, having kids, you know, my perspective on things has changed, and I'm still trying to figure out the best way to, you know, parent my own kids. So I'm not by no means an expert, but
you're learning.
But I had a
You're early in your journey.
I'm early in my journey for sure, and I know even with that, things change. We were talking about business and before we started recording, and just how day to day, week to week, things can change. Like the landscape of whatever you're working on can change so much.
For sure.
Yeah, it's the same thing with kids. Like just as soon as you think you get them figured out, like things change, and you have a framework, and bedtime works and dinner works, and all of a sudden they decide they don't want to eat that anymore, and they don't want to go to bed at this time anymore, and they don't want to wear this and whatever. But I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and he had said, "Yeah, we're going to homeschool our kids. Just keep them out of the public school entirely." I said, "Yeah, you know, you can. I like that. That's it's certainly a luxury, but I think even if you have your kids in school and you're not homeschooling them, you know, 8 hours a day or 6 hours a day, you're still homeschooling them when you're home.
Absolutely. You're a teacher. You're always a teacher for your children.
Always have to be schooling and teaching your kids when you're present with them, right? Whether it's, and so that is, I think, all parents' responsibility first and foremost, after basic survival and, like, you know, roof over the head, keep them fed, keep them safe, all that sort of stuff. But in order to teach them, like, we're not going to rely on the teachers. I'm certainly not going to rely on teachers at school to teach my daughters how to become successful in whatever it is that they're doing. I'll allow them the space to go and meet kids and have fun and certainly learn a few things and a few songs and you know, have a bit of a social experiment. But I know that I am homeschooling when they're home from school and I'm with them on whether it's the weekends or the evenings or before school. I know that I am homeschooling them in one way or another. Yeah. And you got to, and you become that teacher, and not everybody wants that responsibility. I'm certainly happy to take on that role. And I love that.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to take a second and say that I think being a teacher in a school is probably one of the hardest jobs in the world.
Oh my
You
goodness.
could not pay me enough money to go and try to do that. Like, you're you're handling 2 kids right now. Imagine handling 30 on a day-to-day basis, 5 days a week. Like
that aren't
they
your,
are
that aren't
spanked.
your own kids.
Yeah.
That aren't your own kids.
Yeah.
But I 100% agree with you. Teachers, nurses, like teachers, I have a huge heart for them because they have, for the most part, I know some kind of crummy teachers. I've come up against some crummy teachers, but that's probably because we're crummy students. But for like, I don't know a single teacher, and I'm friends with a lot of teachers, and I don't know a teacher that hasn't single-handedly gone out of their way to take money out of their own pockets to buy supplies for the kids and do that because they're selfless, they're good people, they love kids, they love what they do, they're passionate, and they don't get paid nearly enough.
No. Not even close.
Not
even close. Yeah, we could have a whole podcast on that and talk about how certain careers out there that are major, pillars of our day-to-day lives, and they don't get paid well enough, not even close to it.
Man, and yeah, teaching's just got to be the most difficult thing. I feel very blessed because I get to teach what I know.
Yeah.
But I volunteer that time. And as soon as as soon as kids are lipping me off, I'm like, all right, we got some choice. We got some things we got to talk about here, son.
Yeah.
Or woman.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, if you are going to be in a public school and you want to build yourself a future, or even private school, there's a lot of work that needs to be done outside of those 4 walls.
For sure.
Outside of that school, outside of that classroom, in order to navigate what's going to happen after school. I talked to a guy that I was interviewing him, and he's gone to school. He's got 2 master's degrees, a master's in architecture. He's got a master's in building science of some sort. He's got his PMP, which is professional project management certification.
Okay.
And he has 1 year of construction experience, but he's gone to school for everything.
Yeah.
And I'm asking these questions. Okay, well, how much experience do you have in, doing this or doing these basic tasks? And it's just not practical experience.
It's not. Yeah, what you learned from a book and from courses is not the same as the tactile day-to-day where you're learning and problem solving. It goes back to what I mentioned about my parents. Like I could handle a lot of the transactions at a young age as a new realtor, but when a curveball came, I know that my parents had a solution for it, and we could knock it out of the park for our client.
You follow Ryan Serhant?
Yeah, of course.
I suppose.
Yeah,
he's a bit of a unit in the real estate space.
Legend, absolute legend.
What was his? I mean, I've heard him speak, but why? What made him so successful? Do you think?
I mean, he attributes a lot of it to his luck getting casted for the show. If you've read any of his books, he actually talks about he was cast on $1 Million Listing New York, and the biggest sale he had done at that point was a $1,200 lease for a condo. And then so it was a little bit of smoke and mirrors for a bit, but then he got some exposure, and then it just came to his discipline. He saw the other realtors in his office that were super successful and took everything from them that he possibly could. And then he's like, how can I be better? So if they were getting up at 7, going to the gym, getting to the office at 10, he's like, I'll get up at 4. So that's his routine now. Like he's up at 4. He's at the gym 4:30 to 5:30. He's texting, emailing, getting back to clients overseas. And it's just, he's so disciplined and so routined, and he's just built such a personal brand for himself. That's why his brokerage is Serhant, and he's making moves and big decisions when other people are scared. It's like, Buffett always says, be fearful when others are greedy, be greedy when others are fearful. And Serhant actually opened up his own brokerage during the pandemic, which on paper, I don't think you could get many people to say, oh, that's a great idea, let's do this right now. Like, it was a huge risk, and he's taken those risks and reaped big rewards and built his personal brand. And I don't know, he just seems like a great guy to me. Never met him personally, but seems like a pretty cool human.
How many how many realtors are there in our sort of city? You said the Lower Mainland, 15,000. Do you know how many realtors? Do you have any idea? Like, I'm just
Around
just
here?
curious. Yeah. If we say like where we live, for those that are listening, is like 25, 30 minutes outside of the Vancouver core. So we're just south of Vancouver. There's about 40,000 people in the South Delta area at the moment. How many of those are realtors?
What's your guess?
Ooh, that's a good question. This is like a
and I don't have a firm number. I think 8 or 9 years ago, my dad and I kind of guessed. We wrote down a bunch of names and we counted. So I'm going to go a bit higher than that now because we've got some more population coming in this way.
I'm willing to bet there's at least 1% of the population.
Yeah, probably around there. Yeah.
Does that sound about right?
Yeah, maybe 400 realtors.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
And then of that, it's similar to most things in life. You know, the top 10% are doing 80 to 90% of the business, and then the others are doing little. I saw some interesting statistics about the Toronto real estate market, and it was 20,000 realtors in GTA did one deal or less last year.
Wow.
And then I think there was another 5,000 agents, and then only like 100 sold over 20 properties. So it's very easy to get your real estate license. It's very hard to have a successful business and a long career.
Yeah. I think it's like a lot of things, right? It's easy to run a landscaping business, or easy to start a landscaping business, right? The barrier to entry is pretty low.
Yeah.
Get a lawnmower and a truck, and maybe you don't even need a truck. Maybe you don't even need a lawnmower. You can just show up and use your clients' lawnmowers and
literally
knock a few bucks off of your rate.
Yeah.
I hired a cleaning service, and she showed up and she asked me, she's like, "Oh, where's your vacuum?" I was like, Don't you bring your own vacuum?" She's like, "Oh no, I just use my client's vacuum. So all my clients have vacuums." So I'm like,
yeah.
So you just showed up in your car. You want to use my cleaning supplies. You want to use my vacuum, and you're going to charge me to clean my house. She's like, "Yeah, you're not charging me for my equipment. You're paying me for my labor because you don't want to clean your house."
Yeah.
Like, okay, that's fair enough. Yeah, my vacuums.
Let's get to work.
Let's go.
Yeah.
But I mean, the barrier to entry is so low, but to become successful, or to build a career or a thriving business in that scene is like anything else. It just takes time, takes effort, and a lot of grit. And I think it starts off with just that. Your grit and your hard work will get you so far, and then you start having to become more and more strategic about who you're bringing on and where you want to go, and all the good things that all the good business books say.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Do you follow Steve Saretsky at all?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I think he's going to come on the podcast later this summer.
Nice.
Actually. So that'll be kind of cool to pick his brain.
Yeah. He's a very, very bright guy.
Yeah. What's going on in AI in your world right now?
Lots.
I bet. I interviewed a woman. She's down in Phoenix, and we talked to her. So she's built AI for realtors. Like her niche is specifically AI agents for realtors, specifically in this one area of Arizona. And that was where she was like highly super focused, because she said there's so many realtors there that's all she wants to market to before she starts, going elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But I can only imagine that AI will probably disrupt an industry like yours more than a lot of other industries that we've seen in rapid pace. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no matter what, AI is going to be involved in real estate, and it might not ever take over. I think there still needs to be the human interaction. So the realtors that are embracing AI and moving forward with it are going to be the ones that are continue to succeed. Whereas the people that are just like, no, I'm not going to get involved. their business is going to be less efficient, more time consuming for them. And eventually I think those realtors will really struggle in the future. Had a discussion with another top realtor in Vancouver recently, and behind the scenes, there's major companies trying to eliminate realtors by their AI. Like, so who knows what's coming, but there's always a human aspect to everything, I think, in most standpoints, right? Like, I wouldn't necessarily trust an AI program to completely look over a contract or to troubleshoot an issue properly. Like, there's one of the toughest things in the business when you're negotiating an offer for a client is figuring out dates, completion date on the first property to then purchase the next property. But then the seller of this needs that money to buy the next property. And then that person selling might need to buy another property too. So there's this huge snowball effect. And there's a lot of negotiating and playing around. And I don't think AI can necessarily negotiate in your best interest or find things in the contract that may not be in your favor. But like one thing, there's a program I tested out last week is virtual staging with AI. I sent in 20 photos. It sent me 20 photos back 20 minutes later, and they're virtually staged. It's not as good as the other company I use, but I wanted to give it a go. So that's just like the tip of the iceberg. I don't know what else is going to happen. It's going to be wild to watch.
Well, I've seen, I mean, you talk about legal contracts. There's a number of programs out there. A friend we were talking about a program called Legal Shield. I think they're a licensing program, and they're trying to get people on, I don't want to get it wrong. Somebody will probably fact check me, but Legal Shield and maybe kind of an MLM style, onboarding, and then you get your friends to take it on, and then you can buy it for your staff, and then you become an affiliate. And I don't know the whole deal, but what he was showing me was it was pretty powerful to take contracts, and then you upload those contracts to Legal Shield, and it's basically a GPT, but specifically just for contracts,
right?
And it's in your benefit, so you can go to the car dealership, and before you sign the agreement for leasing your vehicle, you put that through the program, and it's going to highlight all of these specific points for you, what you need, what you don't. And like, oh, did you know that they were also charging this fee, and you should negotiate that, and help you save a few bucks. So I think that contract review is going to be something definitely that we're going to see more and more. It's going to be evolving more and more as far as AI goes. Even with more complex contracts, you're seeing a lot of really good reviews on contracts done. The difference is we as human beings, we have the authority to dictate the compliance that we want to withhold. Like I look at, and what I mean by that is we have the decision to say, do we need a real person to sign off on that? We get to choose that right now. Do we need a real person to stamp that contract or stamp that notarized document?
Yeah. Because
we as human beings are making that choice. But as soon as we say, no, you know what, like we don't need that compliance, it doesn't have to be a stamp notary. It's sort of a free for all. I think we're going to see a lot more people trying to write their own contracts.
Yeah, definitely.
And certainly probably see a few issues that are gonna come up. But
of course, yeah. Like the biggest learning curves in anybody, I think, is from the mistakes that are made, right? So we'll see mistakes that are made in AI and adjust them there. I'm glad you brought that up for contract review. So one way that AI has actually stepped in big is reviewing strata documents. So you can send in your strata documents for AI review, and it's going to catch all the key words like special levy, special assessment, upcoming special general meeting, or a Coles notes for the annual general meeting. And it's going to look for all these terms and flag them super quick. So we can upload those into a program, pay for it, and it reviews those documents for our clients. And then they get a little Coles notes. And we always have to say to our clients, this is for you to review. You have to make sure you're comfortable from page 1 to 1,000, and that's on you. But to get a little breakdown to highlight some things that could be issues or could be really good things that the building's doing too, I think that's a fantastic tool for realtors and their clients as well.
We have, there's so many programs interior design is and also an industry that is going to be affected in a big way because there's programs like room.ai where you can just, you take a picture of your kitchen or you take a picture of your house and you're like, give me 3 options. I want something mid-century modern.
Yeah.
I want something ultra classic. I want something post and beam. Like just
sure.
throw in what this can look like. And within seconds, it's going to just throw you some renderings of what's going to be possible. And then you can take that to your contractor and eliminate the designer in a lot of ways. If your contractor is reasonable, can source some stuff out. And I'm not discrediting by any means from my designer friends out there that are listening to this. I'm not discrediting.
Definitely not, yeah.
Just like teachers, I'm not discrediting
Yeah.
by any means what they're doing, but I'm saying it's something to be aware of.
For sure.
And it can be a valuable tool.
Absolutely. Use it as a tool because they can use it too. If they're stuck on a project that they just can't quite get the inspiration and you're working with your client and you don't know the design that they're quite looking for because they might not know, it might be their first renovation, then you can throw out more ideas, quick, easy, simple. So the interior designers that are incorporating AI are going to be the ones that keep succeeding.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that there's going to be a lot of these, and we're seeing it more and more, these entry level positions that are being filled by AI. And I believe it's if you are a young person and you are looking to get into an industry, it's going to be difficult if you don't have something on your resume that says you're familiar with these AI programs.
Yeah.
Because if you can leverage yourself, and this is advice that I give to kids that are in high school and they're looking for a job and they're thinking about a career in whatever it is after high school, learn AI.
Mm-hmm.
Learn as much as you can because chances are you're gonna go and work for a company for a while. If maybe you start your own company, maybe you don't, maybe that's not your thing. But you're gonna be going to work for a company, likely for somebody that's been running their business for a long time, likely somebody that didn't come up with AI and they're too busy and they're working on the day-to-day issues of the business and focusing on that. They don't have the time to really integrate AI. Mm-hmm. The biggest asset before AI removes that entry level help entirely, the biggest asset that you as a young person can have to a company is to start to fully understand AI so that you can help that company implement them.
Absolutely. Yep.
And then pretty soon you'll be running the company all on your own because you're the only person that knows how to run all the AI and the business becomes relied on it. And now it becomes a business of actually running these programs. And without you, they're lost. So I'm like, you want job security, learn how to automate. I hired an assistant, I don't know, about 9 months ago, and she's going to school for it's basically business processing and business, and she loves automations, and the stuff that she's helping us set up is so cool. Nice. It's stuff that is way over my head, and now I'm looking at her, I'm like, okay, we saw this stuff up. I just need you to make sure you're monitoring it and make sure that it's working well because I don't understand it.
I mean, like AI is like having experience in PowerPoint or those other programs, Excel, like that's on a resume back in the day, having those couple features. If you're going to some sort of office workspace, and they were huge factors on your resume. Now it's going to be like, have experience with AI. Could probably do this for your business and systemize this and just make things more streamlined. So the world's always changing. The only thing consistent is change, and AI is just taking place of other programs and making things more streamlined. And I think I think if you're looking for the opportunity within AI, then you will be successful no matter what you do. But if you're just ignorant to it and say it's not going to do anything, I think you're in for a big eye-opening experience over the next 5 years.
We've had initially when ChatGPT first came out, I was playing around with it and integrating the idea of artificial intelligence into a company or into an organization with people that are not used to it. That buy-in that you get, or that we were getting at the beginning, was a very, very difficult thing.
Yeah.
And now I'm very clear that if you are not using AI as a part of your job, then you are being disrespectful of the hours that you are being allotted to work on these tasks, because it's a tool. It's a tool. It's like a hammer or a saw or a builder's level or whatever it is that you use in your arsenal to get your other tasks done. This is something that you can use to be more productive.
Absolutely.
And if you aren't using it, then you are not using your time effectively.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, it's hilarious these days. A lot of realtors will, list a property, not really know what to say. Sometimes it's hard writing a good description for a home, especially if you're not really inspired about it. And so they'll just be like, I have a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo. It's old, it's dated, but it's really well kept. They'll throw that into ChatGPT and it'll spit out an MLS description for them. Now, I've tried that a couple times and I hated what it said. So instead, I will make my own description and then I'm like, make this a little bit more attractive. Make this discuss more about the features of the renovated kitchen or this or that. So it's just a tool. Do what you're already doing, but then use it as a tool to make everything more streamlined or sharpen your skills. We just have to adapt.
And then when I find that you have found the answer that you like, you ask it and you say, what is the prompt that I should have used to get to this answer the first time?
Right.
And then it'll spit out the prompt and then you can save that for future reference.
Yeah.
So you can get to that answer faster, but you do need to know how to prompt it, because if you're giving it very general feedback or very general input, then you're going to get very general answers back.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And all of a sudden those answers that you get, they're not going to sound like you. They're not going to be meaningful. They're not going to have any purpose behind them. They're just going to be, it's just going to be garbage.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time putting data in about me. So I've put into ChatGPT, pay for the subscription, and then you teach it like, this is how I speak. This is an email that I sent out to continue for ChatGPT to learn about me and how I would be in a normal conversation or interact through email or writing an Instagram post or anything like that. So I've given it information about me, and it is wild how close like it gets. You could say like, write me a sold post about a house I just sold down the street, and it's like, oh, okay, that's like very close to what I would say, maybe a few words, but like,
yeah,
it's pretty wild.
We put in, and a lot of companies are doing this. I assume, I don't know. Actually, what I just found as far as contractors go, because it's a blue collar business. Like typically people get into building houses and they get into trades because they don't like sitting at a computer and they like working with their hands and they like building and so I was surprised to hear that it's actually a very small percentage of contractors that are using AI. I think it's like 6 or 7%, like very small. Mm-hmm. And it's just it's so powerful because we can take all of our operating procedures, everything that we do for our entire company, and we can upload it, and the GPT will learn the company. So when you ask it for advice, it's giving you feedback based on how well it knows your company. So we can put in whether it's going to be, a project manager playbook, an operating procedure, whatever it is, like, hey, here, just learn everything, learn all of our processes. So when you're looking for feedback, it's going to start using your very specific language that you use as a company, because it's learned your business and it's starting to now provide you direction based on how well it has learned your company, and it learns your company fast,
super fast. Yeah.
No, it's pretty nuts. Do you think there's much room for creative financing, owner financing in our area these days? Like I know I follow guys like Pace Morby is, he's down in the States. He talks about, people that are doing deals in Canada. I did a deal. It was with the second property that I ever bought, and we did a creative financing deal on that. And it was, I'll run you by the situation, and then you can tell me if you see many of these possibilities out there. But the situation was, there was a gentleman, and he owned, I think it was like 12 units in an apartment building, and he wasn't in a rush to sell them, but I knew that he had them for sale. So I had approached him and said, all right, let's do it. I think it was a relatively low number. Like, these were not good apartments. They were not nice to live in, but I knew that I could fix it up. So I'd gone in and I said, all right, let's sell this for, I think it was $200,000. But I said, let's make the list price $220,000. but you and we will have a off the table agreement that we're going to list it at 220. I'm going to buy it for $200,000. We're going to say it's 220. And at the time of sale, you're going to give me a $20,000 credit back, a renovation credit. So at that time, what I had done was I had gone to the bank. I had gotten a line of credit for the down payment. I had rushed to get that done. We organized a quick sale, and then he had written me a $20,000 check, which I had immediately put back into my line of credit, so I didn't have to pay any interest on it. And then I had I don't think I had a tenant in there the first month, so the only thing that I was out was like the first month's mortgage payment. But that was how I got that first down payment, essentially for free. I didn't pay anything from it. I borrowed the money to like quickly close that deal and make that happen. Now I get that was a relatively low cost, and that was a number of years ago. But are there people around our area that are interested in creative financing? Like, is that something that young folks, if they wanted to try and get into a home with like very little money down, or without having to have some like legacy type inheritance or help from their parents, are they like, is that a good way of doing it? Are there deals out there that you can find around here? Like I know we hear a lot about it in the States.
A lot about it in the States, yeah.
And the argument here is like, well, property in the Vancouver area is just so expensive, much like it is in the greater Toronto area, right? Is very expensive. So I get that.
So your model you're talking about is OTM, other people's money, right?
Other people's
money. And so we definitely don't see it here. I've literally never been a part of a deal where it was other people's money. But there can be opportunities, but you have to learn about that. It's just like learning basic financing. It's like, where are you learning how to save money from? If you've learned from Dave Ramsey, then you know what he's all about. And you could learn from other people that are literally only ever using other people's money and have 200 properties. I think it's all coming down to how comfortable you are with that situation and how well versed you are in it, right? You definitely need a good lawyer, like, involved in that to make sure everything's legit. But I've never seen it happen around here. Not once.
Do you think that's because of regulation, or do you think that's because just the cost of real estate is so high around here?
Definitely a bit of both. I mean, if we went back 20 years, it might be a bit easier for somebody wealthy to, do a bit of a credit back to somebody. Things are always changing. There's always more rules and regulations. Like my dad told me when he was first in real estate, our contract was 1 page. And now it's like 7, 8, 9, 10 pages sometimes, especially if it's strata. So I think it's just more complex, and I think it's usually a safer bet for people to go with a traditional lender. And now, like, if your financing isn't perfect, there's, the best is an A lender. You're probably going to get the best rate. Then there's B lenders. And then there's private lenders where you're going to be paying, a pretty high interest rate at that point. So I think people would probably go through a private lender before they start using other people's money, just because it might be easier. But no.
Yeah, I like to tell people, and it's a bit of a, I guess it comes down to risk. But for those that are interested in buying properties, I know that you can buy properties. If you want to get into real estate, you can buy properties in other areas of the country, no problem, that are way less expensive. You go to somewhere like Saskatoon, you can buy a 4-story house for $360,000, and you can you can't Airbnb it out anymore because those regulations actually just came in, but you can rent it out and those properties will cash flow. But a lot of people don't have that appetite for risk where they could find a solution to get into the market if getting into the market was their primary objective. But if their primary objective is to just own the primary home and there's no other options, then that becomes a bigger barrier, because you need it's a huge percentage down, because you can still do 5% for your first time home buyer. But if you're 5% on $1.5 million is a lot of money.
The biggest barrier for entrance that I've seen in my career so far is just saving up for the down payment. There's a lot of people with fantastic paying jobs out there. They just can't afford to purchase a home, even if they want to, just because of their savings patterns. You need to build up, saving $50,000, $100,000 is no joke. And like, we're getting taxed on every dollar that we take in. So it's nice to see the government come up with a couple programs to, RSPs are great. The first time homeowner savings account is great. Those are good ways to, keep your taxes down a little bit and save some money and grow it if you invest it properly. But no matter what, saving up for down payment is the single biggest barrier for entrance that I've seen in purchasing real estate. It's not always necessarily how much money somebody's making.
Yeah, that's a similar feedback that I get, and from high school students that are going out and they're thinking about, or even I shouldn't even say high school students, because actually a lot of these kids that I'm talking to, man, they are smart. Like they're gonna get out there and kill it. They're not afraid to ask questions. They're not afraid to question the information that they're given. They could, dress a little better and show up on time, but still could I when I was their age. But they're super smart. But when you're talking to these young adults that are 23, 24, 25, they're thinking about getting married. They're thinking about having a family. They're thinking about having a home. They have a good job. They've gone to school. Maybe they've gotten a degree or a PhD or a trade, and they have a red seal ticket because they think like this is what you want. You need something in order to grow. You need some experience. You need some money, and this is going to help. Even at that point, like it's still a very difficult thing for sure. A lot of them to happen. I don't know if you would have any advice to give those folks.
Oh, it's tough. I mean, find something that you're passionate about. When you're young, you have the advantage of time on your side. Go take large risks when you're young. Hop around a couple industries. If you don't love what you're doing, don't stay in it. If you're going to be in something for the next 25, 30 years and working 5 days a week at it and you hate it, that's not a great way to live your life. I think just like making simple decisions though. Do you need your $4 Starbucks every day? Can you make drip coffee at home? Can you cut out on your entertainment? Do you need a subscription for Spotify, Netflix, Hulu, TSN, Sportsnet, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Because all of those little things add up on a monthly basis. And like one thing that I used when I was younger, I was like, okay, I'm making $25 an hour, $200 a day. I have to work for a couple of days to just pay for a couple subscriptions that I like. Like that's a lot of money. If you can cut those out. Small decisions over a long time will have a huge compounding effect. If you start saving $5 a day, that gets to $10 a day. It's going to take time. But if you stay dedicated to that plan and you have the goal, I would say just make a goal. Goals are like magic. If you actually have a huge goal in mind and you stick to it, and when things get hard, you can always remind yourself of that goal. It's going to keep you moving forward.
And I was having this conversation with a gentleman. He's out usually on the beach pretty early, and sometimes I see him. We walk by and we catch up, and we were having this conversation about the cost of housing, and I made the comment similar to you. I was like, you know what? It's not just housing that's expensive. It is the baseline expectation and quality of life here that we live, because everybody walks around with a $1,400 fucking cell phone in their pocket that has a $13 or $14 subscription to Spotify and to their ebooks that they're reading and to Netflix. And you look at your cable bill and you look at Uber Eats, and you're paying a tip on that plus a delivery fee plus this, and like, so there's just this huge way of living that we never had when we were younger. Like when I'd go and buy a cell phone, I used to walk to school uphill both ways in the freezing cold and just put chains on my feet.
Say flip phone and we're dating ourselves. But they're coming back.
Yeah, flip phones are coming back. Yeah. But I used to go to 7-Eleven and you would buy minutes for your phone. I don't ever know. I don't know if you ever did that, but when I had my first cell phone, I bought my minutes from 7-Eleven. You bought a little SIM card and you went and you paid money for it. It was like $15 and you would get a certain amount of minutes.
Yeah.
And then you would put that code in and all of a sudden you would have a few more minutes. But you watch those minutes drift away, man. And when those minutes were gone, there was no more talking on your cell phone until you paid more money up front to go and get that. And then telephone companies just put the idea of convenience right in your pocket. Just pay us this monthly convenience and you never have to go to 7-Eleven anymore.
Yep.
But that's the difference, where there's a little bit of a difference. It's like you used to pay up front for these things. There just wasn't so much distraction. So let's put it that way.
There's a lot of distraction, and all these businesses and subscriptions are all coming from a place of convenience. And that's why they all do so well, right? Like, we want to be as comfortable as we possibly can, and paying for convenience is expensive. So I think the biggest thing in business and life in general, like, if you have a goal in mind and you have something that you want to hit, you have to make some sacrifices. And whether that's, not going out one night a week for dinner that you don't necessarily need and cooking at home, then make that choice. It could impact you more than you know over the course of a year or 2 years. Like, the little things add up.
Yeah, it's a lot of the time not what you say yes to or what you do. It's what you say no to or what you don't do.
Yeah.
Right. So it's quite often, what are you not letting distract you?
Mm-hmm.
What are you not going out and doing and staying home and saving that money? Like, it's as simple as that. But people get caught up in not wanting to, whether it's not be included in the activities that friends are all participating in, or they're just not being able to stay as focused on the task at hand to be as productive as they need to do because their phone keeps beeping or they're in text message groups and all that stuff. But a lot of the time it's very much comes down to not what you are doing, but it's what you are not doing that is going to move things forward.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest financial decisions you can make when you're younger is don't get the brand new vehicle that you think you need. You're going to love it for 3 months and then you're going to hate payments for the next 4 or 5 years, because I know countless people that could have gotten to home ownership 25 years old in a decent condo, for a couple $100K, they'd be worth $500,000 or $600,000, $700,000 now. But instead they bought a brand new vehicle and had a massive payment. And because of that debt service ratio, they weren't able to purchase a home. So don't buy that fancy vehicle. You don't need it. Trust me.
No, yeah, buy it when you're rich. Buy it when you get that first goal that you set. And you
what does Jay-Z say? If you can't buy the vehicle twice, don't buy it at all.
I like that.
Yeah,
my man, Jay-Z. Dude, hey, thank you so much for
my
joining
pleasure.
us here today.
Dude,
it's been a ton of fun. I hope you come back and do it again.
Want
to keep an eye on what's going on in this world. So I appreciate your insight.
Appreciate you.
And for everybody else that's out there that's still with us, thank you so much. It would mean the world if you would go and hit that subscribe button so we can have great people like my friend Blake here to shine his wisdom and shine his insight into all y'all. Until next time, rock and roll.
Thanks, dude.
You bet.
That was great.
That was fun.